Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of an ancient, sprawling labyrinth. Its walls are not made of stone or earth, but of thoughts, endless, winding corridors of ideas that twist and turn into themselves. Each path seems to promise clarity, yet every step leads you deeper into mystery. This is no ordinary maze. It is the labyrinth of the human mind, a place where contradictions dwell not as obstacles, but as silent guides, whispering truths we cannot fully grasp. Why do our thoughts so often loop in impossible circles? Why do we find ourselves caught in riddles that defy resolution, as if the very nature of our being is woven from paradox? Consider the quiet weight of this idea. A paradox is not merely a puzzle to be solved, nor a flaw in our reasoning to be corrected. It is something far more intimate, a mirror held up to the deepest parts of who we are. In the heart of every contradiction lies a reflection of our own complexity, our longing for answers, and our quiet acceptance that some questions may never be answered. The mind, after all, is a vast and shadowed place, a landscape where light and darkness coexist, where certainty and doubt walk hand in hand. As we stand at the entrance to this labyrinth, we are not here to conquer it, nor to escape it. We are here to wander, to listen, to feel the weight of our own wondering. Take a moment to reflect on this. Let your thoughts settle, like dust, in a still room. What is it about the mind's endless turns that draws us in? Why do we seek to unravel what may be meant to remain tangled? Perhaps it is because, in every paradox, we sense a fragment of our own story, a tension between what we know and what we cannot know, between the finite boundaries of our lives and the infinite questions that stretch beyond them. Let us step forward then, with a gentle curiosity, as if tracing the outline of a dream. Imagine the first corridor of this labyrinth, where the air hums with the simplest of contradictions. Yet even these small riddles carry the weight of profound truths. Think of a child who asks, if the sky is blue, why does it turn black at night? A question so innocent, yet it hints at the deeper paradoxes that shape us. How can something be one thing and yet another? How can our understanding shift with the mere turning of the earth? These are the seeds of wonder that grow into the tangled vines of thought, pulling us ever deeper into the maze. As we walk, let the silence of this place envelop you. There is no rush here, no urgency to find an exit. The labyrinth of the mind does not demand solutions. It invites contemplation. It asks us to consider why we are so drawn to contradictions in the first place. Is it because they challenge the tidy structures we build around reality? Or is it because, in their defiance of logic, they remind us of something primal, something that existed before rules, before reason, before the need to make sense of it all? Perhaps paradoxes are the language of the soul, speaking in loops and impossibilities because that is the only way to express what lies beyond words. Take a moment to reflect on this. Close your eyes, if only in your mind, and feel the cool shadow of these ancient walls. What contradiction lingers in your own thoughts tonight? A belief you hold that clashes with another, a desire that pulls you in two directions at once. Allow it to sit with you, not as a burden, but as a companion on this quiet journey. For in this labyrinth, every paradox is a thread, weaving together the fabric of who we are. And so, we begin, not with the promise of answers, but with the gentle allure of questions. Not with the certainty of a destination, but with the mystery of the path itself. The mind's labyrinth stretches out before us, vast and unknowable, yet strangely familiar. Each step will take us from the simplest of contradictions to the most profound, from the edges of thought to the very center of being. But for now, let us linger here at the threshold where the first whispers of paradox call us forward. Let us listen, let us wonder, and let us walk into the unknown with open hearts. Imagine standing at a crossroads, not just one or two paths stretching before you, but 100, 1,000, each winding into a horizon of promises and unknowns. Every direction beckons with a whisper of possibility: wealth, adventure, love, or peace. But as you stand there, feet rooted to the earth, a strange weight begins to settle in your chest. The sheer abundance of choice, once a symbol of freedom, morphs into a silent cage. How do you choose when every path seems to shimmer with equal allure, yet none feels entirely right? This is the subtle trap we often overlook, the quiet paradox that weaves itself into the fabric of our daily lives. The more options we have, the less free we sometimes feel. Consider the wanderer at this endless crossroads, a figure not unlike ourselves. He has traveled far, seeking liberation in a world that offers him everything. Yet, as the paths multiply, his steps falter. Each choice carries the shadow of regret. What if another path held a greater treasure, a deeper truth? His mind spins, crafting scenarios of what could be, until the act of choosing becomes a burden heavier than any journey. He dreams of a simpler time, a narrow road with no forks, where the way forward was clear, even if it was not his own. And in this moment of paralysis, a question emerges like a faint breeze through the still air. Is true freedom found in boundless options, or in the quiet acceptance of limitation? This paradox of choice is not a modern invention, though our world of endless menus, streaming libraries, and career paths might make it seem so. Long before algorithms curated our desires, philosophers and storytellers grappled with the human heart's struggle to decide. In ancient tales, heroes often faced only two doors, one leading to doom, the other to salvation. But even then, the weight of decision could crush a spirit. Today, we stand not before two doors, but before a labyrinth of them, each promising a different version of ourselves. And yet, studies of the human mind reveal a curious truth. When faced with too many options, we often choose nothing at all, or worse, we choose poorly. Haunted by the ghosts of paths untaken, our satisfaction dims, not because we lack, but because we imagine what we might have lacked less. Picture a marketplace in your mind, stalls overflowing with fruits of every color and shape. You reach for an apple, only to hesitate. Might the pear be sweeter, the mango more exotic? As you waver, time slips by, and soon the market begins to close. You leave empty-handed, not for want of choice, but for want of choosing. This is the silent thief of our modern age, stealing not our possessions, but our peace. We are taught that freedom is the ability to have anything, to be anything. Yet we rarely ask whether the soul can bear the weight of such endless possibility. Take a moment to reflect on this. When was the last time you felt overwhelmed not by scarcity, but by abundance? When did the gift of choice become a quiet burden? Perhaps the wanderer at the crossroads teaches us something deeper about our nature. What if freedom is not in the multiplicity of paths, but in the courage to walk one, fully, without glancing back? What if the truest liberation lies in embracing a boundary, a constraint, a single direction, not as a prison, but as a compass? Think of the artist who paints with only 3 colors, finding infinite beauty in limitation. Or the poet who crafts a sonnet within rigid lines, discovering depth in structure. Could it be that by narrowing our gaze, we widen our capacity to truly see? As the sun dips low over the wanderer's crossroads, casting long shadows across the countless paths, he takes a tentative step forward, choosing not with certainty, but with a quiet resolve to trust the journey, whatever it may bring. And in that step, there is a flicker of something. Perhaps not freedom as the world defines it, but a softer, truer kind. One that does not demand everything, but simply asks for presence. Maybe we too can find that flicker, not by seeking more, but by daring to choose less, to embrace the path beneath our feet, and to walk it with an open, unburdened heart. Let this thought linger as the twilight deepens, a gentle invitation to ponder where your own crossroads lie, and whether the freedom you seek is waiting not in the vastness, but in the singular, deliberate step you take next. Imagine for a moment that you are running toward a shimmering horizon, a place where happiness seems to wait just beyond the next step. Your feet pound against an endless track, your breath heavy with anticipation. And yet, no matter how far you run, the horizon slips away, resetting itself just out of reach. This is the quiet, perplexing dance of the human heart, a pursuit of joy that seems to promise fulfillment, only to leave us standing in the same familiar place. Welcome to the enigma of the hedonic treadmill, a paradox that weaves through our lives with silent persistence, inviting us to question the very nature of our desires. Let's linger on this image of the runner for a while. Picture their determination, the sweat on their brow as they chase after milestones, perhaps a new achievement, a fleeting pleasure, or a long-sought dream. Each time they grasp it, there's a burst of warmth, a fleeting high that colors the world in brighter hues. But soon, almost imperceptibly, the glow fades. The new becomes ordinary, the extraordinary becomes expected, and the runner finds themselves back at their starting line, yearning for the next horizon. Why does this happen? Why does our mind adapt so swiftly to the joys we fought so hard to claim, rendering them mundane, while the sting of pain often lingers far longer, etched into the fabric of our memory? This curious asymmetry whispers of something deeper about our nature. It's as though we are wired to seek, to strive, to reach for more, as if contentment itself were a mirage designed to keep us in motion. Consider the ancient Greeks, who pondered happiness not as a destination but as a way of being. Eudaimonia, a flourishing that transcends mere pleasure. Yet even they, in their wisdom, might have stumbled upon this treadmill, noticing how a victory in battle or a feast of celebration soon lost its luster, urging the soul to seek anew. Could it be that this cycle is not a flaw, but a quiet engine of human progress, pushing us forward even when we long to rest? Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever chased something, a goal, a possession, a moment of bliss, only to find that once it was yours, the thrill dissolved, leaving you hungry for something else? Notice how the mind seems to recalibrate, always adjusting its baseline, as if refusing to let us settle into lasting peace. Now, let's wander deeper into this mystery. Imagine a child who delights in a simple toy, their laughter ringing with pure, untainted joy. Days pass, and the toy gathers dust, no longer sparking that same wonder. Yet, if that same child scrapes their knee, the ache might echo in their mind for weeks, a shadow that colors their play. Why does happiness slip through our fingers like sand, while sorrow clings like damp earth? Some might say it's survival. Our ancestors needed to remember pain to avoid danger, while fleeting joys kept them hungry for the next hunt, the next shelter. But there's a haunting beauty in this design, isn't there? It suggests that we are creatures of motion, never meant to stand still, even in our happiest moments. And yet, this treadmill raises a heavier question, one that hangs in the air like a quiet mist. If every pleasure we chase eventually fades into the background, is there a point to the pursuit at all? Are we doomed to run forever, reaching for horizons that will never hold their promise? Or might there be another way to step off this track, to find a quieter joy in the act of running itself, in the rhythm of the journey rather than the ever-shifting destination? Perhaps the paradox lies not in the treadmill, but in our belief that happiness must be a place we arrive at, rather than a fleeting companion we learn to walk beside. Let's pause here for a breath. Close your eyes if you wish, and consider a moment in your own life when you reached a long-desired goal, only to feel that subtle emptiness creep in. What did that teach you about the shape of your desires, about the way your heart seeks and adapts? As we drift through this thought, let's imagine one final scene. Picture the runner once more, but this time they slow their pace. They notice the coolness of the air against their skin, the steady beat of their own heart, the way the horizon glimmers, not as a place to conquer, but as a quiet reminder of possibility. In this slowing, They begin to wonder if joy might not be in the reaching, but in the noticing, in the small, ordinary textures of the path beneath their feet. This paradox of the hedonic treadmill, then, becomes less a trap and more a mirror, reflecting back to us our endless capacity to seek, to adapt, to redefine what it means to be fulfilled. And so, we leave this endless track with a lingering question, one to carry into the quiet of your own thoughts. If happiness is not a destination to hold on to, but a fleeting guest that comes and goes, how might we learn to greet it with grace, without clinging, without running ever faster toward the next illusion? Let this question settle over you like a soft dusk, inviting not answers, but wonder, as we rest in the mystery of our own restless hearts. Imagine for a moment a ship setting sail on an endless sea, its wooden planks creaking under the weight of time and tide. This is no ordinary vessel, but one bound by a question as old as thought itself, a riddle that tugs at the very fabric of what it means to be. This ship, known in ancient tales as the Ship of Theseus, embarks on a journey not just across water, but through the murky depths of identity. As its timbers are worn by salt and storm, each plank is replaced, one by one, until not a single original piece remains. And so, we must ask, is it still the same ship that first kissed the waves, or has it become something entirely new? Picture this vessel in your mind, gliding through a misty dawn, its crew diligently working to keep it seaworthy. A broken mast is swapped for a fresh one, cut from a distant forest. A weathered deck is pried apart and rebuilt with new boards, smelling of pine and possibility. Over years, every nail, every rope, every fragment of its being is traded for something newer, stronger, untouched by the past. The name painted on its hull remains the same, and the sailors still call it by the name of their first voyage. Yet, beneath that name, beneath the stories told of its adventures, lies a quiet transformation. If nothing of the original endures, what holds its identity together? Is it the shape, the purpose, the memory of its first journey, or something more elusive, something we cannot touch? Let this question drift into your own life, like a whisper carried on the wind. Consider your own body, a vessel of a different kind, remaking itself with every passing moment. The cells of your skin, your blood, your very bones, they regenerate, they fade, they are replaced over the span of years. The child you once were is no longer here in any physical sense, and yet you carry their laughter, their fears, their dreams as if they never left. Memories too shift like sand beneath the tide. Some erode, others are reshaped by time's gentle hand. If every part of you, from flesh to thought, is in constant renewal, are you still the same person you were a decade ago, a year ago, even a day ago? Take a moment to reflect on this. Feel the weight of your own continuity, or the lack of it, settling over you like a soft fog. This riddle of the ship stretches beyond mere objects or bodies. It pierces the heart of how we define anything at all. Think of a river you may have once visited, its waters rushing past in an endless dance. You cannot step into the same river twice, for the current has moved on, carrying away the droplets you once touched. Yet we give it a name. We call it constant, as if its essence remains untouched by the flow. So too with friendships, with love, with the ideas we hold dear. Each evolves, each sheds old layers for new, and still we cling to the belief that something eternal binds them to their origin. Is this persistence a truth, or merely a comfort we weave to shield ourselves from the fleeting nature of all things? Now let your mind wander back to that ship, its silhouette fading into the horizon. Imagine standing at its helm, feeling the unfamiliar wood beneath your feet, knowing that nothing of its first voyage remains, nothing but the stories told by those who sailed before you. Does the ship's identity live in those tales, in the shared memory of its name, or is it lost forever with the last discarded plank? Perhaps the answer lies not in the ship itself, but in us, in how we choose to see sameness amidst change, in how we anchor ourselves to a sense of self, even as the tides of time reshape us. As the sea grows calm and the ship's outline blurs into the dusk, let this mystery linger in your thoughts. There is no need to solve it, no urgency to declare what is or isn't the same. Simply let the question sail alongside you, a quiet companion in the vastness of your mind. For in this paradox, we glimpse something profound. That identity, whether of a ship or a soul, may not be a fixed point, but a journey, a continuous act of becoming, carried forward on waves we cannot fully chart. Rest in this uncertainty for a moment. Let it wash over you, as gentle and unending as the ocean itself. Imagine for a moment a hidden garden tucked away beyond the edge of the world, a place so secret that its very existence seems to shimmer with uncertainty. Its flowers bloom in hues no eye has ever named, and its paths twist in patterns that defy memory. But here's the strangeness of it all. The moment you gaze upon this garden, its colors shift, its shapes rearrange, as if your very act of looking breathes new life into its form. What was crimson becomes indigo under your stare. What was a rose now sways as something altogether unknown. And so, a quiet question begins to stir in the depths of your mind. Does this garden exist as it is? Or does it become what it is only because you see it? This is the enigma we wander into now, the subtle, haunting interplay between perception and reality. It's a notion that stretches beyond the boundaries of a mere garden, reaching into the very fabric of how we understand the world. In the realm of science, this idea takes on a peculiar weight. Consider the smallest particles that make up everything we know: electrons, photons, the building blocks of existence itself. When left unobserved, they seem to dance in a state of endless possibility, neither here nor there, neither one thing nor another. But the instant we turn our instruments upon them, the instant we seek to know their nature, they collapse into definiteness, as if caught in the act of becoming. It's as though reality itself waits for an audience before it dares to take shape. But let us linger on this thought, stepping away from the cold precision of laboratories and into the warmth of our own lives. Think of a moment when you've watched someone you love, a friend, a parent, a child, unaware of your gaze. In that fleeting silence, they seem almost a stranger, a mystery unfolding in gestures and expressions you've never quite noticed before. Yet the moment they sense your eyes upon them, something shifts. A smile forms, or a guarded look emerges, as if your attention has reshaped the very essence of who they are in that instant. Is it possible that our watching, our caring, our judgment alters not just how we see others, but who they become in our presence? Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt the weight of someone's gaze changing the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you feel? This ripple extends further into the vast and intangible. Consider the truths we hold dear, ideas of justice, beauty, or even the divine. Do these concepts stand firm, immutable in some unseen realm? Or do they bend and shimmer under the lens of our beliefs, our cultures, our personal longings? A painting deemed a masterpiece in one era might be scorned as trivial in another, not because the canvas has changed, but because the eyes upon it have. And what of the truths we seek in the quiet of our own minds? When we ponder our purpose, our worth, do we uncover some eternal fact, or do we craft it anew with every question we dare to ask? There is a delicate unease in this realization that our act of observing, of seeking, might not merely reveal the world, but rewrite it. It's as though we are both the audience and the playwright of reality, caught in an endless dance where every glance, every thought, leaves an imprint. Picture again that hidden garden, its petals trembling under your gaze. What if, in looking away, you allow it to slip back into a formless dream, waiting for another set of eyes to awaken it once more, or perhaps, in some quiet corner of existence, it watches you in return, shifting your own colors in ways you'll never fully grasp. This is the mystery we carry with us. a whisper that lingers long after the garden fades from thought. Our attention, our curiosity, our very presence, these are not passive things. They are forces, subtle yet profound, that shape the contours of what is real. And so, as we drift through the labyrinth of our own perceptions, we might wonder, are we discovering the truth, or are we, in some unspoken way, creating it with every step we take? Let this question rest with you, like a soft shadow cast across a forgotten path, inviting you to wonder, to dream, to see the world anew. Imagine, wanderer of the mind, have you ever stumbled upon a riddle so simple it unravels the very fabric of truth? Picture a quiet village square at dusk, where an old scribe sits beneath a flickering lantern, scratching words onto parchment with a trembling hand. His message is brief, a single line that echoes through the ages. This statement is false. And with that, a storm of confusion brews, not in the sky, but in the depths of thought itself. What does it mean for something to declare its own falsehood? If it is true, then it must be false as it claims. Yet if it is false, then it must be true in its confession. Welcome to the ancient enigma of the liar paradox, a loop so tight it strangles logic itself, leaving us to wonder if the tools we use to understand the world, language, reason, certainty, might be more fragile than we dare to admit. Let's linger with this scribe for a moment, in the dim light of his lantern, as his quill hovers over the page. He writes again, repeating the same cursed sentence, as if hoping the ink might resolve the contradiction, but it doesn't. Each word contradicts the last, a serpent biting its own tail, circling endlessly with no beginning or end. This isn't merely a game of words. It's a crack in the foundation of how we build meaning. We rely on language to anchor our thoughts, to name the world around us, to declare what is and what isn't. Yet here, in this deceptively simple statement, language turns on itself, revealing its limits. It's as though the scribe has uncovered a mirror that reflects nothing but distortion, forcing us to ask, can we ever truly capture absolute truth with something as imperfect as words? Consider the weight of this riddle as it ripples outward. This paradox, traced back to the ancient Greeks, whispered by philosophers like Epimenides, has haunted thinkers for millennia. It's not just a puzzle to solve, it's a reminder of the boundaries we cannot cross. Imagine a builder crafting a house, confident in every brick, every beam, only to find that the blueprint itself is flawed, a design that cannot stand. That's what the liar paradox does to logic. It suggests that the very systems we use to reason, to debate, to define, might harbor contradictions at their core. If a single sentence can create an inescapable loop, what does that say about the grander truths we seek? Are there questions we can ask that defy any answer, not because we lack wisdom, but because the question itself is a trap? Take a moment to reflect on this. Let your thoughts drift to a time when you've wrestled with a contradiction, a belief or idea that seemed to fold in on itself. Perhaps a promise you made that you couldn't keep, or a truth you held that slipped through your fingers the more you grasped at it. These personal paradoxes, though quieter than the scribe's riddle, carry the same weight. They remind us that certainty is often an illusion, a fragile construct we build to shield ourselves from the unknown. And yet, isn't there a strange beauty in this fragility? The liar paradox doesn't just frustrate, it humbles. It invites us to sit with the mystery, to accept that not all paths lead to resolution, that some loops are meant to be wandered rather than escaped. Now, imagine the scribe setting down his quill, his tired eyes gazing at the parchment as the lantern's flame begins to wane. He knows his words will confound generations, that scholars and dreamers will circle this riddle long after the ink has faded. But perhaps he also senses something deeper, a whisper beneath the contradiction. Maybe this paradox isn't a dead end, but a doorway, a glimpse into the messy, untamed nature of existence itself. Truth, after all, isn't always a straight line. Sometimes it bends, sometimes it spirals, and sometimes it vanishes into the shadows of our understanding. What if the liar paradox isn't meant to be solved, but to be felt, to remind us that the search for meaning is as endless as the loop it describes? As the village square grows quieter, the scribe's riddle lingers in the air, a soft echo that doesn't demand an answer, only contemplation. It asks us to question the tools we wield, language, logic, belief, and to wonder if they can ever fully map the terrain of reality. Perhaps there are truths that lie beyond words, beyond thought, in a realm where contradictions aren't flaws but features of a greater design. For now, let this paradox be a gentle weight on your mind, not to burden, but to balance as you drift through the labyrinth of your own questions, seeking not just answers, but the courage to keep asking. Imagine a village nestled in a quiet valley, surrounded by rolling hills that seem to guard its secrets. This is a place of warmth, where every stranger is met with a smile, where the gates stand open day and night, and where the people pride themselves on welcoming all who cross their path, no matter their story or intent. In this village, tolerance is not just a virtue, it is the very foundation of their way of life. But what happens when a newcomer arrives, not with a weary heart, seeking refuge, but with a desire to tear down the very openness that welcomed them? What happens when the principle of boundless acceptance is tested by someone who rejects acceptance itself? This is the paradox of tolerance, a quiet storm that brews beneath the surface of our noblest ideals. It asks us to consider a delicate, almost impossible balance. How can a society, or even an individual, embrace all perspectives, all beliefs, all ways of being, without inviting the seeds of its own destruction? In our village, the elders gather under the ancient oak at the center of the square, their faces etched with concern as they debate the newcomer's words. This stranger speaks of rules that must exclude, of walls that must be built, of silencing those who differ. The villagers, bound by their creed of openness, find themselves caught in a web of contradiction. To reject this stranger would be to betray their principle of tolerance, yet to accept their views without question might mean the end of the very freedom that defines them. Let us step back and wander through this dilemma, as if walking the winding paths of that village at twilight, the air heavy with the scent of earth and uncertainty. The paradox of tolerance is not a new riddle. It has echoed through history, from the forums of ancient Athens to the quiet study rooms of philosophers like Karl Popper, who wrestled with this very question in the shadow of rising tyrannies. Popper warned that unlimited tolerance could lead to the extinction of tolerance itself, for if a society tolerates the intolerant without limit, it risks being overtaken by forces that will dismantle its freedoms. Imagine a garden where every plant is allowed to grow, even the invasive vine that chokes the life from all others. Is it kindness to let the vine spread, or is it a failure to protect the garden's harmony? But where does the line fall? If the villagers confront the stranger, if they draw a boundary and say, "Your rejection of others cannot stand here," are they not becoming the very thing they oppose, imposers of a singular view? The paradox deepens as we ponder the nature of boundaries themselves. Every act of exclusion, even in defense of inclusion, carries the weight of judgment. It whispers a troubling question. Who decides what is intolerable, and by what measure? In the dim light of the village lanterns, we see the elders' furrowed brows, their voices low as they grapple with the fear that their decision, whichever it may be, will unravel the fragile thread of their unity. Take a moment to reflect on this. Where in your own life have you faced such a tension between the desire to embrace all and the need to protect something sacred? Perhaps it is in the words you choose to speak or withhold, or in the company you keep, or in the beliefs you quietly challenge. The paradox of tolerance is not just a societal conundrum, it lives within us in the way we navigate a world of clashing values and hidden motives. Consider, too, the stranger in the village. What drives their rejection of openness? Is it fear, a wound from their past, or a conviction as deeply held as the villager's own? The paradox invites us to see beyond the surface, to question whether tolerance demands not just acceptance of actions, but understanding of the hearts behind them. Yet even this understanding has its limits, for to empathize with intolerance might soften the resolve to resist it. It is as if we stand at the edge of a lake, seeing our reflection ripple and distort with every stone we cast into the water. How do we act without losing ourselves in the waves of contradiction? As night falls over the village, the elders reach no clear answer. The stranger remains, their presence a quiet challenge to all that the community holds dear. The paradox of tolerance lingers like the mist over the hills, obscuring the path forward. And so we are left to wander in thought, to feel the weight of a question that resists resolution. Can true tolerance ever be boundless, or must it always carry the shadow of its own defense? The village sleeps uneasily tonight, and perhaps we do as well, cradling this ancient riddle in the stillness of our minds. Imagine for a moment that everything you see, touch, and feel is not as it seems, a carefully crafted illusion, a dream within a dream, woven by forces beyond your comprehension. What if the very fabric of your reality, the ticking of time, the weight of your thoughts were nothing more than lines of code in an unseen machine? This is not a mere fantasy, but a question that lingers at the edge of modern thought, a hypothesis that unsettles as much as it fascinates. Are we living in a simulation, a construct so intricate that even our doubts about it are part of the design? Picture a dreamer, someone not unlike yourself who begins to notice the seams of their world. At first, it's subtle, a shadow that falls just a little too perfectly, a coincidence that repeats with uncanny precision, as if the universe itself were following a script. The dreamer pauses, gazing at the sky, and wonders why the clouds seem to loop in patterns too deliberate to be random. They touch a stone, and it feels real, solid, yet there's a whisper in their mind, a quiet doubt. What if this sensation is merely data, fed into their consciousness by something or someone beyond the horizon of their understanding? As they walk through their days, the world starts to feel like a stage. Each interaction a carefully choreographed scene. Each choice less their own and more a product of invisible programming. This idea, this simulation hypothesis, stretches back through the corridors of philosophy, echoing the musings of ancient thinkers who questioned the nature of reality, but it finds new life in our age of technology, where we build virtual worlds so vivid they blur the line between what is created and what is true. If we can craft such illusions, what stops a greater mind, a creator, a programmer, or perhaps a civilization far beyond our own, from crafting us? Consider the vastness of the cosmos, the billions of stars and galaxies, and ask yourself, is it more likely that we are the pinnacle of existence, or that we are but a flicker in a grander experiment, a single simulation among countless others? Now, let's linger on the weight of this thought. If our reality is a construct, what does that mean for the choices we hold dear? Every decision, every triumph, every heartbreak, could they be nothing more than predetermined outcomes, variables, in an algorithm we cannot see? Or perhaps the illusion is so perfect that free will exists within its boundaries, a freedom that feels real even if it is not. Take a moment to reflect on this. Imagine standing at the edge of your own life, peering into the code behind it. Do you feel the weight of your choices lessen, or do they grow heavier with the mystery of their origin? And what of purpose? If we are players in a simulated game, does meaning still hold? The dreamer in our story begins to search for signs of the creator, a glitch, a hidden message, a purpose embedded in the patterns. They study the stars, hoping for a signal, a whisper from beyond the veil. But what if there is no creator? Or, worse, what if the creator has abandoned the simulation, leaving us to wander in an endless loop of forgotten code? This question gnaws at the edges of existence itself, for it forces us to confront whether purpose is something we find or something we must forge, even in a world that might not be our own. Yet, there is a strange comfort in this uncertainty. If all is a simulation, then perhaps pain too is an illusion, a temporary line of code that will one day be rewritten. The dreamer, standing beneath that too-perfect sky, feels a quiet resolve. Whether real or constructed, this moment, this breath, this thought, it exists for now. And maybe that is enough. Maybe the search for truth is less about unraveling the nature of the world, and more about how we choose to live within it, simulated or not. So, let this idea settle over you like a soft dusk. Ponder the possibility that your reality is a masterpiece of design, or perhaps a fleeting experiment in a boundless digital expanse. What does it change about the way you see tomorrow? Does it lessen the beauty of a sunrise, or deepen the mystery of your own consciousness? Take a moment to reflect. On this, let the question linger, not as a burden, but as a quiet companion, guiding you into the unknown depths of what it means to be, whether in a world of flesh and stone or one of unseen code. Imagine, for a moment, a painter standing before a canvas that has seen better days. The colors, once vibrant, have faded into muted echoes of their former glory. Cracks spiderweb across the surface, and the edges of the frame are splintered, worn by time's relentless touch. Yet, as this artist gazes upon the decay, their eyes soften. They see not ruin, but a lingering beauty, a masterpiece that still whispers of its past brilliance. They choose to believe in this illusion, to wrap themselves in the comfort of what once was, rather than face the stark truth of what now is. And in this quiet act of denial, a profound question stirs. How is it that we can deceive ourselves so knowingly, crafting lies we embrace as truths to shield our fragile hearts? This strange dance of self-deception is a paradox woven deep into the fabric of our being. We are both the storyteller and the audience, spinning tales we know to be false, yet believing them with a sincerity that defies reason. Consider the painter again. Each morning, they return to their studio, brush in hand, adding fresh strokes to cover the cracks, layering new colors over the faded ones. They whisper to themselves that the canvas is whole, that it remains as it was in its prime, even as they feel the weight of its frailty beneath their touch. Why do they cling to this fiction? Is it mere cowardice, a refusal to confront the inevitable? Or is there something deeper, something almost sacred, in the way we shelter ourselves with illusions that soothe the ache of reality? Perhaps self-deception is not a flaw, but a quiet act of survival. Our minds, after all, are not built solely for unyielding truth. They are also sanctuaries, places of refuge where we can retreat when the world grows too heavy. Think of the child who imagines a guardian in the dark, a silent protector against the shadows of night. They know in some corner of their mind that no such figure exists, yet the belief calms their racing heart, letting sleep descend like a gentle tide. As adults, we are not so different. We tell ourselves we are stronger than we feel, that tomorrow will be kinder, that the losses we've endured have not truly scarred us. We paint over the cracks in our own stories, not out of ignorance, but out of a tender need to keep going. Yet there is a shadow to this paradox, a subtle danger that creeps in unnoticed. When we deceive ourselves, we risk losing sight of the very truths we need to grow. The painter, lost in their illusion of beauty, may never step back to see that the canvas cannot hold new paint, that it crumbles with every stroke. They may miss the chance to create something new, to let go of what was and embrace what could be. And so we must ask, where does comfort end and delusion begin? How do we balance the solace of self-deception with the clarity that comes from facing our reality, however painful it may be? Take a moment to reflect on this. Have there been times when you've painted over your own cracks, choosing a softer lie over a harder truth? What did it cost you, and what did it save? This paradox shapes more than just our personal worlds. It molds the very essence of who we are. Our identities are often built on these quiet contradictions, on the stories we tell ourselves about our past, our worth, our place in the grand tapestry of existence. We might believe we are unlovable, even as others offer us warmth, because a deeper hidden narrative whispers that we are not enough. Or we might see ourselves as invincible, ignoring the quiet tremors of doubt, because admitting fragility feels like surrender. In every act of self-deception, we are both creator and creation, shaping a self that exists only in the fragile space between truth and illusion. And so, we return to our painter, standing before their crumbling canvas, under the dim light of evening. They step back, just for a moment, and a flicker of doubt crosses their face. Do they see the decay at last, or do they turn away once more, choosing the comfort of their crafted beauty? Perhaps the answer matters less than the question itself, for in this paradox of self-deception, we find a mirror to our own humanity, a reminder that we are beings of both light and shadow, forever weaving fictions to navigate a world that often feels too vast, too uncertain, to face unshielded. Let this thought linger as the night deepens. How do we honor the truths we hide from without losing the gentle illusions that help us endure? Imagine for a moment a single grain of sand resting quietly on the edge of a vast, empty shore. It sits there, unremarkable, a tiny speck against the endless stretch of earth. Then, another grain falls beside it, carried by a gentle breeze, and another. Slowly, imperceptibly, more grains gather, one by one, until something new emerges. A heap, a mound of sand that seems to have appeared as if by magic. But when did it happen? At which precise grain did this collection transform, from mere scattered fragments into something whole, something defined? This is the heart of an ancient riddle, a quiet conundrum that whispers to us about the nature of boundaries, of change, of the very way we perceive the world. Consider this image of the sand, each grain so small, so insignificant on its own, yet together they create something tangible, something we can name. The puzzle lies in the transition, in that invisible line we cannot draw. If we add just one grain at a time, watching closely, we still cannot point to the exact moment when the heap comes into being. Is it at the 100th grain, the 1000th? Or does the heap exist only in our minds, a label we impose on a reality that refuses to be so neatly categorized? This is not merely a game of semantics or a trick of logic. It is a mirror held up to the way we navigate life itself, where so much of what we experience slips through the cracks of definition, existing in the grey, the ambiguous, the undefined. Think of the slow unfolding of a friendship. A first meeting, a casual word, a shared laugh, each moment as small as a grain of sand. Days pass, then months, and one day you realize this person has become a cornerstone of your world. But when did they cross that threshold from acquaintance to confidant? Was there a single conversation, a single gesture that tipped the balance? Or is it only in looking back that we construct such boundaries, imposing clarity on a process as gradual as the tide reshaping the shore? Life, it seems, is woven from these vague edges, where beginnings and endings blur, where transformations happen not in dramatic leaps but in whispers we only hear after the fact. Now let us wander deeper into this thought. The riddle of the heap, of where one thing becomes another, touches not just on sand or friendships, but on the essence of who we are. Consider your own growth, the quiet shifts that have carved you into the person you are now. A child becomes an adult, but on which day, in which fleeting second, did that change occur? Was it marked by a birthday, a decision, a loss? Or does the boundary dissolve under scrutiny, revealing that we are always in flux, always a heap in the making, never quite finished, never quite defined? There is a strange beauty in this uncertainty, a reminder that the world resists our need for sharp lines, that reality often dwells in the spaces between. Take a moment to reflect on this. Where in your own life have you sought to draw a line, to name a moment as the turning point, only to find the edges slipping away? Perhaps it was the end of a chapter, the start of a dream, or the slow drift of a belief you once held tight. Notice how the mind struggles to pin it down, to mark the grain that made the heap. Yet perhaps there is peace in letting go of that need, in simply witnessing the accumulation of small, quiet changes. This riddle, known in philosophical circles as the Soreite's paradox, has lingered in human thought for centuries. Trace back to the ancient Greeks who pondered the same elusive boundaries we grapple with today. It challenges us to question not just how we define a heap, but how we define anything at all. Is a river still the same river after years of flowing, its water entirely replaced? Is a city still itself when every brick has been rebuilt? The paradox whispers that our categories, our labels, our fragile things, constructs we lean on to make sense of a world that is endlessly shifting, endlessly becoming. And yet, do we not feel the weight of these transformations, even if we cannot name the moment they occur? Do we not sense the heap forming, grain by grain, in the quiet corners of our lives? As we linger here, let this thought settle like sand beneath the waves. What if the beauty of life lies not in finding the exact point of change, but in embracing the mystery of its gradual unfolding? What if the heap was never meant to be defined, but simply to be felt, to be experienced as a process rather than a destination? There is a calm in this unknowing, a gentle invitation to release our grip on certainty and to walk alongside the slow, steady accumulation of moments. Let this idea drift with you like a grain carried on the wind, landing softly somewhere in the vast shore of your mind, waiting to join the countless others in a shape yet to be named. Imagine, if you will, a lonely donkey standing in a quiet field under a pale, indifferent sky. Before it lie two bales of hay, identical in every way, same size, same scent, same distance from where the creature stands. The donkey, hungry and weary, stares at one bale, then the other, its mind caught in an invisible web of indecision. Hours pass, then days, and though its stomach growls with primal need, it remains frozen, unable to choose. In the end, it collapses, not from lack of sustenance, but from the sheer weight of its own inability to act. This is no mere fable, but a window into a profound contradiction of the mind, a paradox that reveals how our greatest strength, the gift of reason, can sometimes lead us to ruin. This curious tale, often called Buridan's Ass, named after the medieval philosopher Jean Buridan, strips bare a hidden flaw in the machinery of decision-making. We like to believe that rationality is our guide, a steady compass through the chaos of life. We weigh options, measure pros and cons, and trust that logic will illuminate the path forward. But what happens when reason finds no difference to weigh? When every choice appears equal, as perfectly balanced as those two bales of hay, does our mind not falter, caught in an endless loop of analysis? The donkey's plight is not so far from our own. Think of the moments when you've stood at a crossroads, perhaps between two jobs, two loves, or even two flavors of ice cream, and felt the creeping paralysis of overthinking. The more we dissect, the less we move, until hunger, time, or circumstance forces a collapse of its own kind. But let us wander deeper into this enigma. Why does perfect equality in choice breed such inaction? Is it not strange that the very tool we rely on to survive, our capacity to think, can betray us when pressed to its limits? Perhaps the answer lies in the nature of desire itself. We are not merely rational beings. Beneath the surface of logic pulses a current of instinct, emotion, and unspoken need. When reason cannot tip the scales, we are left stranded, waiting for some hidden impulse to break the tie. Yet in the donkey's case, no such impulse arises. It is as if the mind, stripped of any distinguishing factor, becomes a mirror reflecting nothing but its own emptiness. Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt that stillness, that eerie void, where no choice feels right, and yet to not choose feels equally wrong? Consider too the broader shadow this paradox casts over our understanding of freedom. We often equate liberty with the abundance of options. The more paths before us, the freer we are. But Buridan's ass whispers a darker truth. Freedom can become a cage when choice overwhelms the chooser. In the field of perfect symmetry, the donkey is free to eat from either bale, yet it starves. Is this not a reflection of our own struggles in an age of endless possibilities? We scroll through infinite streams of content, ponder countless career paths, and sift through a world of potential partners, only to find ourselves immobilized by the sheer weight of it all. What if true freedom is not in the multiplicity of options, but in the courage to act despite uncertainty, to bite into one bale of hay, knowing it may not be the best, but trusting it is enough? Let us linger here in this quiet field a little longer with the donkey's ghostly figure before us. Its indecision is not just a curiosity of thought, but a mirror held up to our own hesitations. How often do we starve ourselves, not of food, but of progress, of connection, of life itself, because we fear making the wrong choice? And yet, is there not a strange beauty in this flaw? It reminds us that we are not machines, bound to cold algorithms of decision, but creatures of doubt and wonder, wrestling with the imperfect art of living. Perhaps the donkey's tragedy is not in its failure to choose, but in its inability to embrace the imperfection of choice itself. What might happen if it simply stepped forward, not out of certainty, but out of a quiet resolve to keep moving as the pale sky above fades to twilight? Let this image settle into your mind. The donkey, the bales, the endless hesitation. They are not just a story, but a question. When reason binds us in chains of indecision, how do we break free? Is it through abandoning thought, or through redefining what it means to choose? Let this paradox hum softly in the background of your thoughts, a gentle riddle to carry into the stillness of the night. For in the end, even in our paralysis, there is a kind of poetry, a reminder that to be human is to stand time and again between two bales of hay, searching for the strength to take that first, uncertain step. Imagine for a moment that you hold in your hands a key to the past, a device, a secret, a whispered path that allows you to step backward through the veil of time. You find yourself standing at the edge of a decision, one so profound that it could unravel the very thread of your existence. What if, in journeying to a moment long gone, you altered the course of history in such a way that you prevented your own beginning? This is not merely a puzzle of logic, but a window into the deepest mysteries of time, causality, and the nature of destiny itself. Let us wander into this enigma together, slowly, as if treading through a dream where every step echoes with questions that defy answers. Picture a traveler, a solitary figure cloaked in the weight of curiosity, who discovers a way to breach the boundary between now and then. Driven by a longing to right a wrong, they return to a pivotal day, a day when their own lineage hung in a fragile balance. Perhaps it is a meeting between two souls, a chance encounter that sparked the chain of events leading to the traveler's birth. With trembling hands, they intervene, ensuring that the meeting never happens. The two souls pass by, unaware of what might have been, and the traveler feels a fleeting triumph. But as the air around them shimmers with the consequences of their choice, a chilling realization dawns. If their ancestors never met, how could they themselves have come to be? And if they were never born, how could they stand there in that altered past to make such a change? This riddle, often whispered as the grandfather paradox, coils around the mind like a serpent, its loops tightening with every attempt to escape. Consider the nature of time itself. Is it a river flowing in one unyielding direction, where any disturbance creates ripples that cannot be undone? Or is it a tapestry woven with threads that can be pulled and rewoven into patterns unimaginable? If the traveler's actions erase their own existence, does time snap back like a broken string, resetting to a reality where they never existed to meddle in the first place? Or does it splinter, birthing a new strand of history where the impossible becomes possible, a world where cause no longer precedes effect? Take a moment to reflect on this. Imagine yourself as that traveler, standing at the crossroads of your own origin. What weight would such a choice carry? Would you dare to tug at the fabric of your being, knowing it might unravel entirely? Or does the very thought of such power stir a quiet fear, a recognition that some boundaries are not meant to be crossed? Let us delve deeper into the heart of causality, the silent law that seems to govern our every moment. We are taught that every action births a reaction, that the past shapes the present as surely as the present crafts the future. Yet, in this paradox, causality turns upon itself, a mirror reflecting a mirror, creating an endless hall of contradictions. If you cease to exist by your own hand, who then made the choice to travel back? And if no one did, how did the past change? The mind stumbles here, caught in a dance of logic that refuses to resolve. Perhaps this reveals something profound about destiny. Are we truly the authors of our stories? Or are we bound by a script, written in a language we cannot read? A script where even our rebellion is part of the design. Consider too the possibility that time is not a line, nor a loop, but a vast web, where every decision spins new threads, new worlds. In one, the traveler succeeds and fades into nothingness, a ghost of a life never lived. In another, their actions create a parallel existence, a shadow reality where they persist, unaware of the fracture they have caused. Does this mean that destiny is not a single path, but a chorus of possibilities, each singing its own truth? Or does it suggest that time, in its infinite patience, holds a wisdom we cannot grasp, a way to reconcile the irreconcilable, to mend the broken links, of cause and effect in ways beyond our comprehension? As we linger in this thought, let the mystery settle over you like a soft mist. What if time is not our creation to manipulate, but a force that hums beneath our understanding, guiding us even as we believe we guide ourselves? What if every attempt to rewrite the past only reaffirms its inevitability, as though the universe whispers, "This was always meant to be"? There is a strange comfort in this uncertainty, a quiet invitation to release our need for control and simply exist within the flow of moments, whether they stretch forward or fold back upon themselves. Take a moment to reflect on this. Close your eyes, if only for a breath, and imagine time as a silent companion, one that neither judges nor explains, but simply is. What does it mean to you, this notion of destiny, of a past that might resist alteration, or a future that might already know your every step? Let the question linger, unanswered, as we rest in the enigma of what was, what is, and what might never be. Imagine for a moment a quiet room bathed in the soft glow of twilight. On a weathered wooden table lies an open book, its pages worn and yellowed, whispering stories of heroes and tragedies that never truly happened. Yet, as a solitary reader turns each page, tears trace silent paths down their cheeks, their heart heavy with grief for a character who exists only in ink and imagination. Why do we ache for what we know is not real? Why does a fabricated death stir the same raw sorrow as a loss we've lived? Let us wander into this strange and tender territory, where the boundaries of reality and invention dissolve, revealing a paradox that speaks to the very core of our humanity. Consider the power of a story, how it weaves itself into the fabric of our being. A tale of a knight who falls in battle, a lover who vanishes into the mist, or a child who never finds their way home. None of these souls ever breathed, yet their pain echoes within us as if we held their hand in their final moments. Our minds, so adept at distinguishing fact from fantasy, seem to betray us here. We sit in darkened theatres, watching shadows flicker across a screen, and our pulses quicken with fear for a protagonist we know is merely an actor reciting lines. We laugh, we tremble, we mourn, all for a world that vanishes the moment the credits roll or the final chapter ends. Is this not a quiet rebellion of the heart against the rigid borders of truth? Perhaps this phenomenon unveils something deeper about who we are. Empathy, that invisible thread that binds us to others, does not seem to care whether its object is flesh or fiction. It surges forth unbidden, as if to remind us that suffering, even imagined, is a universal language. Think of the last story that moved you. Maybe a novel read in the stillness of night, or a film that lingered in your thoughts long after the screen went dark. Did you not feel, in some unspoken way, that the emotions were as real as any you've known? That the joy or despair of those characters became, for a fleeting moment, your own? Take a moment to reflect on this. How a mere illusion can pierce the veil of our guarded selves, drawing forth tears or laughter as effortlessly as a memory. Let us drift further into this mystery by considering the nature of our connection to these unreal worlds. In ancient times, storytellers gathered listeners around flickering fires, spinning tales of gods and monsters, and even then, the audience wept and cheered as if the events unfolded before their eyes. The Greek tragedies, performed on stone, stages beneath an open sky, evoked catharsis, a purging of emotion, so profound that entire cities were said to be transformed by a single play. Were those spectators naive, or did they, like us, understand a truth beyond the literal? That to feel for the imaginary is not folly, but a testament to our capacity to transcend the limits of our own existence, to stretch our souls into realms we cannot touch. Now ponder this. If our emotions for the fictional are so vivid, what does this say about the line between what is real and what is not? Could it be that our minds, in their infinite complexity, do not merely react to stories, but co-create them? When we grieve for a character's loss, are we not, in some hidden way, grieving for something within ourselves? A longing, a fear, or a wound we cannot name? The story becomes a mirror, reflecting not just the invented world, but the unspoken depths of our own. A hero's sacrifice might echo a courage we wish we possessed. A villain's betrayal might stir a shadow of doubt we've buried. In this light, the paradox of fiction is not just about feeling for the unreal, but about how the unreal reveals what is most real within us. Let this thought linger as we drift a little deeper. The emotions we pour into stories are not wasted. They are a quiet rebellion against a world that often demands we numb ourselves to feeling. To weep for a fictional death is to affirm that we are alive, that our hearts still beat with the rhythm of compassion, even for what never was. There is a gentle magic in this, a reminder that our humanity is not confined to the tangible, that we can love and mourn across the vast expanse of imagination. Perhaps this is why stories have endured through millennia, because they allow us to practice the art of feeling, to rehearse for the joys and sorrows of life in a space where no true harm can come. And so, as we sit with this paradox, let us not rush to solve it. Instead, let us rest in its mystery. Why do we feel so deeply for what we know is false? Perhaps the answer lies not in logic, but in the quiet truth that to be human is to blur the edges of reality, to let our emotions wander where our bodies cannot. Take a moment to reflect on this, on a story that once moved you, on a character who felt as real as a friend. Let that memory settle over you like a soft blanket, a reminder that even in the realm of make-believe, there is a profound and unshakable truth. Our capacity to feel knows no bounds. Imagine, for a moment, a figure standing before a mirror, their face obscured by a delicate mask of porcelain and gold. They reach up, trembling with the weight of a long-held desire to see their true reflection, and slowly lift the mask away. But beneath it, there is no bare skin, no unguarded visage, only another mask, this one carved from wood, weathered and worn, as if it has always been there. They pause, fingers hovering, and a quiet question forms in the silence. Who are they, really, if every layer peeled back reveals only another disguise? This is the paradox of authenticity, a riddle that haunts us as we navigate the shifting landscapes of our own identity. We are told from a young age to be true to ourselves, to uncover the core of who we are and stand firm in that truth. Yet, as the years unfold, we begin to notice how mutable that core seems to be. The self we knew at dawn feels like a stranger by dusk. The beliefs we held as unshakable crumble under the weight of new experiences, only to be replaced by others we swear will last forever, until they too fade. If we are always changing, always shedding one version of ourselves for another, then what does it mean to be authentic? Is there a singular, unchanging essence beneath all these masks? Or are we merely the sum of the disguises we wear, each one chosen or imposed by the currents of life? Consider the mask wearer in our story. Each time they remove a layer, they believe they are closer to their true face. The porcelain falls away, and they tell themselves the wooden mask beneath is more honest, more real. But when that too is lifted, revealing yet another, a mask of iron, cold and unyielding, they begin to wonder if the act of seeking authenticity is itself a kind of performance. Perhaps the pursuit of being true is not about finding a final, definitive self, but about crafting a narrative, a story we tell ourselves to make sense of the fragments. We wear masks not to hide, but to define, each one a chapter in the endless book of who we are becoming. This idea echoes through history, woven into the philosophies of those who grappled with the nature of the self. In ancient Greece, the Delphic maxim, "Know thyself," was inscribed above the temple of Apollo, a command that seemed to promise clarity. Yet, the more one sought to know, the more elusive the self became. Socrates, with his relentless questioning, often led his interlocutors not to answers, but to deeper uncertainty, as if to suggest that the truest knowing lies in recognizing how little we can ever grasp. Even in the East, the teachings of Buddhism speak of anatta, the doctrine of no self, positing that what we call I is merely a fleeting illusion, a collection of ever-shifting thoughts and sensations with no fixed center. If there is no permanent self, then authenticity cannot be about finding something solid. It must be about embracing the impermanence, the dance of masks that we wear and discard with each passing moment. Take a moment to reflect on this. Think of a time when you felt certain of who you were, a role you played, a belief you held, a version of yourself you thought was final. Now consider how that certainty has shifted, how the edges of that identity have softened or shattered over time. Can you pinpoint the moment you changed? Or did it happen so gradually that you only noticed in hindsight, staring at a stranger in the mirror of memory? Let us return to our mask wearer, standing in that dimly lit room, surrounded by the discarded faces they have worn. They hold the iron mask now, its weight heavy in their hands, and they hesitate. Should they lift it, searching once more for something truer beneath? Or should they stop, accepting that each mask is as authentic as the last, each a piece of the puzzle that is never meant to be complete? Perhaps authenticity is not a destination, but a question, a quiet, persistent inquiry into why we long for a fixed self in a world where nothing stays still. Maybe to be true to oneself is not to uncover a hidden core, but to honor the fluidity, to allow each mask its moment before it too falls away. And so, we are left with this gentle mystery. If the self is a river, always flowing, always reshaping its banks, then is authenticity the act of standing still to name it, or the courage to wade in, letting the current carry us where it will? There is no answer here, only the soft invitation to wonder, to linger in the space between one mask and the next, feeling the weight of who we have been and the whisper of who we might become. Imagine a world where every belief, every value, every judgment is placed on equal footing, a vast borderless landscape where no moral compass points to a definitive north. In this realm, what is right for one is as valid as what is wrong for another, and the very notion of truth dissolves into a shimmering haze of perspectives. But as we wander deeper into this territory, a shadow creeps in, subtle at first, then undeniable. What happens when this boundless acceptance, this refusal to draw a line, opens the door to actions that wound, that shatter, that destroy? How do we stand for anything when we stand for everything? Picture a society perched on the edge of this idea. A quiet village nestled among rolling hills, where the people have vowed to honor every voice. They gather in a great hall, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of lanterns as they listen to each traveler who passes through. Every story, every creed, every claim is met with a nod of understanding, a murmur of respect. A man speaks of peace through silence, and they agree. A woman speaks of strength through struggle, and they agree. The air hums with harmony, a delicate balance woven from the threads of endless difference. But one evening, a stranger arrives, cloaked in darkness, his words sharp as a blade. He speaks of power through cruelty, of justice through pain, and he demands they bend to his will. The villagers hesitate, their principles trembling under the weight of his gaze. If all beliefs are equal, how can they reject him? If no moral ground is firmer than another, how can they say no? This is the paradox that haunts the heart of moral relativism, a belief that all truths are subjective, that no value holds universal weight. It is a philosophy born of empathy, of a desire to see the world through countless eyes, to acknowledge that what feels sacred to one may be profane to another. And yet, as we embrace this fluidity, we find ourselves adrift on a sea with no shore. If every action can be justified by perspective, then what stops the tide of harm from rising? If a child's cry, a neighbor's suffering, a community's collapse can be dismissed as merely one view among many, where do we anchor ourselves? The very openness that seeks to liberate us can become a cage, trapping us in a silence that permits the intolerable. Take a moment to reflect on this. Have you ever felt the pull of this tension in your own life? A moment when you hesitated to judge, to draw a line, because you feared imposing your own lens on another's truth. And yet, in that hesitation, did you sense a quiet unease, a whisper that some things must not be allowed to stand? Consider the ancient thinkers who wrestled with this riddle long before our modern debates. In the marketplaces of Athens, philosophers like Socrates probed the nature of virtue, asking whether goodness was merely a matter of custom or something etched into the fabric of being. Across centuries, others followed, from the Stoics who sought a universal reason to the existentialists who insisted we forge our own meaning. Yet none could fully escape this shadow. If morality is a human invention, shaped by culture and time, then how do we condemn acts that another age or place might celebrate? And if it is not, if some deeper law exists beyond our making, how do we claim to know it without the taint of our own bias? Imagine now a river, wide and winding, its waters carrying every thought, every ethic, every choice downstream. You stand on its bank, watching as the current sweeps past. Here, a ripple of kindness, there a wave of malice, all flowing as if equal in their right to exist. But beneath the surface, you glimpse jagged rocks, hidden currents that could tear apart any who venture too close. Do you call out a warning, knowing your voice might be just another echo in the endless stream? Or do you remain silent, trusting the river to carve its own path, even if it leads to ruin? This is the question that lingers, quiet but unyielding. Can we truly live in a world where no moral truth holds sway? Or must we, in the end, plant a stake in the earth, declaring that some lines must not be crossed, even if we cannot fully justify why? Let this thought settle over you like a soft mist, obscuring the horizon just enough to make you wonder. Perhaps the paradox of moral relativism is not a problem to be solved, but a mirror held up to our own uncertainty. It asks us to navigate a world where absolutes are elusive, yet where our hearts still ache at the sight of wrong. It challenges us to balance the beauty of difference with the weight of consequence, to seek a footing on ground that shifts beneath us. And as you drift with this idea, let it carry you gently toward a deeper question. In a universe of endless perspectives, what do you hold as your own unyielding truth? And why does it matter so much to you? Take a moment to reflect on this. Let the stillness of the night wrap around you as you ponder the invisible lines you've drawn, the ones you cannot cross, even in a world that whispers all paths are equal. Let this mystery linger, a quiet companion as you rest in the unknown.